Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's reading we're using, I guess, an allegorical representation of the alchemical process to look at what you are transforming, purifying, building, developing in your life at the moment, and the sort of spiritual underpinnings of that and the process that you'll go through to get the best outcome. So the reason I wanted to do this reading is it was inspired by getting a new oracle deck called The Rose, or the Oracle of the Roses. It's from Rockpool Publishing if you're interested in getting it, and you can see some cards from that as part of the choice for the reading. Roses in alchemy are a very strong spiritual symbol. So there is the red rose that eventually becomes the white rose through the, in a sense, what I would call almost the artistic rendering of the spiritual process of alchemy. And for me, when I found alchemy, it was kind of via those symbols, because I used to sit in a meditation group at one point in my life, and I had meditations that showed those symbols. And I hadn't actually been introduced to alchemy, even though I grew up in a family that was into astrology and all sorts of things. We never really talked about alchemy, so that was the way I was introduced to it. I looked into the symbology and found how much those symbols and others that I had in the meditation connected to the alchemical process, and pretty much became a devotee and fascinated by alchemy ever since as a process. I also think it's a really interesting process structurally to look at for change in life, because the thing about alchemy is it is very spiritual. The sort of concept of base metal into gold is a spiritual allegory for the development of the soul, but it's also very much practical and in the 3D in many ways, because alchemy was in fact the parent in a way of chemistry. So it has a very practical application, and I think that's one of the things I like about alchemy, because I like spiritual things that are in the real world and that we can actually do something with in how we are in the world. So it seemed to be the coming of a deck that is about roses, and this deck is not about alchemy. It takes various roses and it applies certain archetypes to them. It's a very clever, very beautiful deck, and I will be reading the cards in this reading both from the perspective of the original author and artists and so forth for this beautiful deck, but also through the prism of alchemy as well. So the deck's more than alchemy, or it's not focused on alchemy, but for me it became such a strong symbol for that. So that's why we've got this reading. Sorry for raving on about that, but I thought that would give you some context as to why you're seeing a group of roses to choose from. And very specifically, I chose red roses from the deck to be part of this, because that is earlier in the alchemical process. There is going to be in the structure of the reading 2 other roses that were intuitively pulled. I don't know what they are for each of these, along with other sort of oracle cards that will either have been intuitively pulled ahead of time or that I'll shuffle as we go through the reading. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with looking at what, from the red rose perspective, is the type of energy that you're looking to transform or transmute or change in your life, and what the sort of themes under that are. Then we're going to use a particular, almost what I call brother and sister tarot deck that I recently got from a Kickstarter, which is Luna's Light Angel Tarot and Luna's Dark Angel Tarot. And I'm using them specifically around light as being the energy of change, and the dark as looking at the process in alchemy, which is called the Negredo, where we actually burn down the constituent parts to transform them and release them before we can move towards the white rose and other symbols in alchemy. So that will be showing a bit of a structure of the process that we're looking at. Then we'll be looking at what are some of the change energies that you will be using, what the white rose in a sense looks like when you achieve it, and bring it all together with some chakra and astrology energy. So that's to give you an idea of the pathway we're going on. The important thing, as always, is to choose the right reading, and you can by all means go to more than one reading. You may be transforming and transmuting more than one thing in your life, and you may resonate in a sense almost to the roles that are being described by this in more than one role and so forth. So certainly, choose whatever reading or readings that draw to you. But to help with the choice, apart from the numbers and so forth, the rose that is represented for pile 1 is called the ruler. The rose for pile 2 is the innovator. The rose for pile 3 is the storyteller. and the rose for pile 4 is the Knight. So I felt that they were 4 distinct, very interesting archetypes that might help you be drawn to the right reading. I don't know, as I say, what the other cards are going to be, so it'll be an amalgam of that energy with others, but hopefully it will help you choose, or whatever way you use to choose will bring you to the right reading. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, I've got the timing in the description box below, and I'll see you in your reading. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So as I said, these are the 3 cards that show the sort of rose alchemical energy that we're looking at, and I'm also using cards from the Tarot of Magical Correspondences to give some extra sort of magical and Kabbalistic energy and understanding to what we're looking at in the alchemical process. We'll return to this particular tarot when we're looking at what the underlying energy of the change is, once we've used the light and dark angel tarots as well a bit later in the reading. So you chose the ruler, and I think if you came to this reading with any sort of consciousness about rulership, leadership and so forth, it's because you recognize in yourself that you are meant to be a leader, and you definitely are. One of the reasons that this transformation process is to move up into a higher level of leadership if you aren't already there, to lead out as a thought leader, to lead out as a leader of people, maybe within a healing sort of context, but in doing something new, creating something new that has a structure, a heft, a framework and so forth to it. Because we've got the ruler card here, which is about stepping into leadership, taking on those sort of roles. If you haven't already, I think this is a sign you're going to, and that is part of your path. Connected with healing, and this card talks about understanding the small wounds that are around any sort of change, issue, transformation, as well as the larger ones. And then we have the Architect, which is a card, if you think about it, with architects of creating something new, but very intricate, very structurally sound, and very much in the detail. Architects are very much in the detail. When I turned over these cards and got that energy, I've definitely felt there might be some people who come here, if you know Myers-Briggs, who are INTJ, for instance. It's one of the classic typologies for people with that kind of architect. In fact, it's often called the architect. But the interesting thing about you, if it is the case, is that this may be your primary energy, I feel, and the thing that you bring to change, which is this sense of precision, this sense of real understanding about how all the constituent parts of something fit together into what the change is, what it is you're trying to construct. But you are very, very much connected to your heart as well with the healer there. And what these cards are telling me in particular, we've got the 3 of Cups, which is about celebration, love, connection, and so forth. And then we have the 3 of Swords, which is about the wounds, which is why I think that it makes sense that that came with the healer here, of understanding the wounds of change and how to manage those. In both of these cards, the Kabbalistic Sephiroth that is evoked is Binah. And what is interesting about Binah in the context of this is that Binah is the great mother, the divine feminine, but she is the mix of great wisdom with compassion and empathy. So what happens with the Kabbalah is that when the divine consciousness comes down from its sort of lofty heights, I guess, into the world, it goes through a pathway of the different Sephiroth. And before we get to Binah, we have Chokmah, and Chokmah is divine intelligence, but it is intelligence, it is intellect, it is concepts, it is the architect in many ways. So this tells me that the people who've come to this reading, one of the reasons that you are meant to be in a leadership role and you are meant to be transforming yourself or your life to take on that type of role is that you do marry both these things very, very well. And you sit more now in Binah, but you haven't forgotten the wisdom, the purity of it. You apply it, interestingly, with 4 of Wands to personal relationships, to teamwork, to all of those sort of things. You would be the epitome of what they call a servant leader, someone who actually understands how bringing people together, understanding and taking them through change is the way to lead them and to reach a workable and a sustainable outcome. This is extremely good for anybody who moves into leadership roles in an organisation or is starting their own business and will have people working for or with them. But even if it's not that, it could be that you are taking this understanding around healing people, healing pain, or it could be that your business is tending towards something that heals people. And that could be in any kind of business. It could be in a therapeutic sort of realm, but it could also be something creative that you're doing that understands the small and the large hurts that people have as they change, and how to reconstruct a better world. It's also got a potential political sort of feeling to it, actually, social justice and so forth. But whatever it is, you're very connected to that. And in this particular card with the Four of Wands, it's connected to Hesed, and Hesed is about kindness. So the people who have come to this reading are kind. You are very, very smart, and what you are doing in the world is important in terms of leadership at whatever level you're working. But one of the reasons that it's so important is you have true empathy and you have true compassion, you have true kindness. And I think that the main thing that these cards together are trying to say is, one, do not underestimate your leadership and what you bring to that. Many people will be happy and celebrate a connection to you if you step into that role. But in the process of doing it, I think you are going to take people through change, therapeutic change, organisational change, whatever it might be. And I think the message of the healer card here with the Three of Swords is to remember that you may be more resilient than some other people going through change. That use your compassion, your empathy and your kindness to see, while you are creating this thing that may to some people seem very theoretic, but in fact it comes from the heart, that you understand the small issues. It could also be an indication to you that you will be releasing some pain from the past, that you have carried wounds and pain and so forth, and you are going through your own healing to do that, to recreate a world where the relationships around you are better. But you will take a ruling, and that's why you came to this. Whether you consciously or unconsciously chose it, you might have just liked the look of the particular rose, but you knew that. It's also interesting too that colour-wise with these roses, we have the sense of the understanding in the material world with the deepest red, the red rose there, that is something you're meant to do. And then we have lighter coloured roses here, which take us further in the alchemical process because of your understanding of pain and your understanding of how to be kind and bring people with you. So the world needs people like you. I'm very, very delighted to see this coming up as a kind of energy for change. So you're changing something which will bring other people with you and which will heal stuff potentially in yourself, but it is to become a leader. So, as I say, we will return to that particular deck a little bit later, but what we're going to do is we're going to use the tarot, as I said, to look at, firstly, with the Lunar Light Angel deck, what a little bit more detail about the specifics of what this change process is. So the first thing I got as I put this down, it's very specific. It's not going to fit everybody, but I'm just saying it because it came through very strongly. For some of you with this energy, as I say, I think that you are in organisations, in roles where change is going to be important and where power and the appropriate use of power, that servant leadership sort of energy is important. I feel for some of you, the change is the old guard is leaving. And so you have an opportunity to step up into a role, or if you've been around a very difficult, very critical sort of person, potentially someone who was inhibiting the progress of people, there is a sense that is moving out, and part of your leadership is either going to be something that triggers it in some way, or that you can have the opportunity to step up. So there is a real opportunity for some who come here to move into a more leadership role where you can redesign how things are done culturally within that organisation in a more healing, caring, kind sort of way, and release the energy. There's a lot of untapped energy in the team by the looks of things, if this resonates to you. And you felt a little bit isolated, a little bit sort of set apart. I think whoever this person is, who I think is leaving, is somebody who's been quite threatened by you, to be honest. And you may have particularly, this might be why I have the sense that some of the wounds are to you, you might have particularly been in their sights, but I feel like they're going. I feel like the opportunity is coming and you can let go of some of that emotional stuff, but you've got to almost negotiate the terms of that retreat, the terms of that change and so forth, or your negotiation around things in terms and moving into a leadership role is in fact the thing that will unseat that particular more negative, more constrictive sort of power. This person is not like Bina. This person is the opposite. They're suppressing the heart and they're living just in their head, and I think very critical, and they are quite threatened by other people. So that's very specific, but I felt I needed to say it. More generally, it's a similar sort of energy, but I feel as though it's just saying that you have been in an environment, in whatever this is in your life. It could be in your family, it could be in your friendship circle, it could be in your career, it could be in creativity, where there have been rules, and they have been very restrictive sort of rules that have made you feel a little bit alien, a little bit outside of the curve. And that is because you're actually more advanced and you're actually meant to lead. But you are maybe in an industry or something where you feel like I'm constricted by the rules and so forth. And there are a lot of them are unwritten rules. A lot of them are rules that kind of you're supposed to just know, and it can be difficult to navigate that and negotiate that and so forth. And that has caused some sort of sense about what really matters to you. I feel though with the Eight of Cups here, that you are letting go of the patterns that made you feel isolated. You've had an aha moment, or you are about to have an aha moment. This transmutation is you understanding how your difference is the thing that is going to take you forward. It's almost as though you've gone, I've been trying so hard to fit in, but I can't fit in because it isn't right. There's something that's not right about this environment. What I need to change in the material world, what I'm going to do is I'm going to negotiate my own terms. This is why you're the architect. This is why you're going to create something new, a different culture, a different approach, a different whatever it is. So it's very materially about breaking out of bonds that were restrictive, I think to you, but I think to others. I definitely think that there are going to be people around you who are so happy that you are doing this and who will move with you. It's like, what I'm getting is sort of a musician who has been in a very restrictive label, for instance, and you move on to do something, maybe even to create your own way of producing your music, and other people follow you because they're delighted that there is that sort of sense. This is just an example, but it's understanding that you felt alien because the thing wasn't right for you and it was too restrictive, particularly to your very sharp mind. You see, you'd see what was restrictive here. Other people might just think, oh, it is what it is. But because you are that kind of, as I say, almost that INTJ type, you don't have to be an INTJ Myers-Briggs. It's just to give an example. You want to design. That's what your leadership is. And this current situation is too restrictive. So let's have a look using the Dark Angel Tarot about what you would be burning out, changing and transmuting to achieve this, to free that energy. So the Negredo in alchemy, it's not a terrible process. It's not dark in the sense of evil or anything like that. It is just where all the constituent elements of a situation are brought together and burned down to their essence so that the real truth and the real spiritual development can be released. So let's see what that process is for you, pole one. So, firstly, this is the dealing with what is not true, with the Seven of Swords here. We are looking at what is not true. So, and that's interesting. I was reading that like that was the Seven of Swords. This is me getting familiar with the cards, but it's actually the Seven of Wands, which is around courage. So it's your courage to break through that is doing that. But whenever that happens, whenever I kind of misassign a card, I always feel like there was a meaning to that, and I think it is because your negotiation ability, that's why it's showing up here, is what is supposed to release you. It is what is going to be, it's that intelligence that you have that is the aha moment that breaks through. But you are prepared to let go of a lot of emotional stuff from the past. You are prepared to burn all out before you if you had to. Now, the thing I feel is that people, relationships, whatever it is, will follow you that are right for you. So if this is picking up something about a restrictive relationship that needs to be healed, then then either the relationship is going to follow you or you are going to move away from it and bring the right relationship in. And certainly in an organization, it's almost like there is a standoff about this, and you are prepared to burn it all out if necessary to find the right direction for you. You're prepared to put your own ego on the line too with the Queen of Wands. Like you're very brave, I have to say. Whatever this is, you are very brave. You are prepared to put it all forward to be purified, to make sure that as you move forward, what you do is appropriate and is kind, and as I say, has that mix of both wisdom and compassion. So this is not about your ego. I think this is the interesting thing. You will move into a leadership position. It's why I felt the servant leadership for you. But it's not about your ego. It's not about leading to prove, oh, look at me, I've moved up the ladder, or look at me, I've started my business, or I'm a creative genius, or whatever. You're prepared to burn all that out if necessary to get to what is pure. You're very spiritually oriented with the Hermit there, and that's where you go in. You go in. I think you probably go into the dark night of the soul in the sense of what it means colloquially, not in this early original sense. Though some of you may be mystics, and so you may in fact go into it on a mystical level. That might be part of your process, but you are going to look at it all. You're going to look at it all and break through everything that is too conventional. Like there is a feeling here for some of you that it may be spiritual, it may be, you're within a very structured religious group, and you're going to take all before you to work out what is true to you. And some people, I think it's interesting the Queen of Wands is here, because I feel as though you may be criticised and said it is about ego or it's all about you, but that's not what's going on. What's going on is you are prepared to put that all in the pot and as I say, burn it out to see what is real. And that's why you are meant to be a leader. So, and that's the courage side of that. But I definitely think these two things are connected, that there was a reason that I misread that card. It is actually about your mind. Your mind is really, really sharp, but it is tempered with Bina by kindness. And so that's very beautiful. So I said that we were going to go back to the Tarot of Magical Correspondences, and so I'm going to pull 3 cards from that, and it's to represent what they call the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is part of the alchemical process, and it's a very mysterious thing. It's said to be in everything. It's almost like a life force, and it's the search partly for the Philosopher's Stone that this is all about. So it's a kind of underlying engine room. So I want to look at that, and then we're going to look at a few oracle cards that are about the engine room also of this change. I mean, I think we've seen some of it here. It's about breaking out from something restrictive and redesigning whatever this is in your world for the good of others, I think, though I think it will help you as well. So let's see what the Philosopher's Stone energy is for you. Wow, okay. Now, for a start, I should have mentioned I never use reversals in this deck. I feel because of the Kabbalistic extra information and magical sort of correspondences, you don't need to. And I don't feel right doing that. So, okay. So just on its most basic classic reading here, the Nine of Coins definitely says that you are meant, on a material level, there is a material level to this, taking a leadership role, starting your own business, whatever it might be, a creative project. You are meant to stand on your own 2 feet. And as you step into this, you will probably find that you have the resources you need. If you've doubted that, and you might have with the 5 of Coins there, if you doubted that you will have the material resources coming from it, they will come to you. You're highly connected to your spiritual sense. So this is the Hermit as well. It's interesting that you're prepared to even burn that out if it was necessary. You are going through a major change with the Tower. Major. But the beauty about it, what I feel from you, is that you understand it and you go with it. The Tower is actually a wonderful card, I think, as long as you go with the energy. It is absolutely the perfect epitome of the engine of change of alchemy, because it is about burning out everything that is no longer working to birth the new. So there is a very, very strong sense here that you are in tune with the change. This is why you're meant to lead. You definitely are. And if people are saying it's about ego, it's not. I'm getting that very, very strongly. Now, in terms of the Kabbalistic connections around this Philosopher's Stone, firstly, we have the sense with Hesod or Yesod. It's called the Foundation. It is the first Sephiroth out of Malkuth, which is Earth. So it is definitely suggesting that what you are designing is moving up the spiritual ladder. But it is very grounded because it is the first Sephiroth after Malkuth. So what you are doing has a material impact. It has a material impact with the 9 of coins anyway, but I do think a lot of you, it's going to be around business, politics, something creative. And it will lead others, but you will stand very much on your own power and so forth. It's connected, but it's grounded as well. Then we have, looking at what is really pushing it, we have Tiphereth, which is all about beauty and joy, and linking to Keter. So Keter is the divine consciousness. This is the high priestess finds beauty and joy in the connection with the divine, and you do, but this is material. So even if it's a spiritual business you're doing, it is material, but you are very connected through your understanding about what is beautiful and joyous. That's part of the empathy that you have. That's part of what's driving it. And then when we look at the energy of the tower, we have Hod and Nesach, which is the connection between sincerity and victory. So that says that your sincerity, your kindness, your living of your truth links to how you can be victorious. This is why there is a fight, there is a battle, but you are more than prepared for this battle because of your psychic connection, but also because of a pure heart. And you will emerge victorious from this, I don't have any doubt. So let's then so your Philosopher's Stone is about connecting your inner knowing with a change process where you stand very firm in who you are and that you materially bring a change into the world, in whatever level that is to you. Okay, so let's have a look with some other cards that were under the rose for some other energy around the change, so the actual change process we're talking about. Ask Body. The Tree of Life from Norse mythology. And Fenrir. So with Ask Body, that suggests to me, and it's interesting it's in an alchemical reading because, as I said, chemistry, the body, all of that sort of thing connects, is that you are probably very kinesthetic. You probably sense within your body when things aren't working. If you feel sort of a blockage in your body, if you feel your guts, feel sort of tense or whatever, if you feel sick around somebody, all of these things are things to know because there is a battle. There is a battle to be had. Fenrir is interesting. Fenrir is a wolf energy, so you may connect to wolves on a spirit animal level. But Fenrir is also very protective, but savage if crossed. And so I feel as though this is your great strength. You don't necessarily show you will be very, very protective, very, very benign with anybody who comes to you with a good heart. But if someone crosses you, God help them, I've got to say. You're very, very connected to the Tree of Life. So you're very connected to these energies. This is why there's such a strong energy around Binah for you, because that is up in what they call the supernal triangle. It is very high order Kabbalistic sort of energy. So you're very connected to that, very connected to destiny. I think you have a sense of destiny around you. And I don't use that term lightly. I think, very often what we think of as destiny is character, but I think for you there is actually a destiny. You're meant to do something. And your fierceness and your capacity to protect, but also to deal with your enemies if necessary. There is a little bit of a sign there that sometimes there can be betrayal. So be aware, this person, this energy, whatever it is that was contributing, will not like your new design. I think you have everything you need to win, but whatever that energy is, whether it's an industry energy, a particular person, people in your family, religious groups, whatever it might be, will not like that. They may try and undermine you, and I think they'll try and undermine you by saying this is all about you, when that is not what it's about. And that's when they potentially awaken the wolf, and God help them, I'd have to say. Okay, so let's have a look at the white rose. So I'm looking at 3 different decks, oracle cards, to get an energy about what it is once you've actually achieved this change. So the red rose is all the sort of potential of it. The white rose is the purified force. So I'm going to be looking at some ancient Egyptian energy. I'm going to be looking at some goddess energy, and then we'll pull a card from the white light oracle to bring that energy of the white rose together before we close out with the Astro Chakra cards. So firstly, a couple of cards, Spirit, that shows us what the white rose means using ancient Egypt type of mythology. Sekhmet. Wow, okay. So we have two goddesses or god energies from Egypt here. Sekhmet is about change and healing. Sekhmet can be quite fierce. So again, you could be quite scary if somebody was doing the wrong thing. I think you're incredibly protective, benign, kind, and all that sort of thing when people are acting appropriately, and for your tribe and your people, you will be a wonderful leader. But Sekhmet is also about change and healing. So once you reach the white rose, there will have been a healing that has gone through. The change will be done, and it will have been a healing one that brings better fertility and satisfaction with Saturn. So this is why we end up with the Four of Wands. Your change process doesn't just help you, it helps other people. Let's see what other, I mean, you've already got two goddess energies there already, which is pretty impressive, but let's see what other goddess energy there is around you, pile one, when you reach the white rose. There you go. Elios, generosity. And it says, give and ye shall receive, and you know that. This is who you are. This is generosity of heart, a kindness of heart. You know, fierceness when necessary, but you are ultimately very, very kind, and you will be embodying that even more. I feel that you may have felt restricted in what you could do and how you could help people. Maybe some of you, this process is finding the way to be able to help people, to have a voice and to do something. You might have felt powerless in actual fact. This may be part of the energy. This is why you're prepared to go through a tower moment and burn out all before you. But ultimately, when you get that achievement, the healing has occurred, that generosity of spirit, people respond to it, people see it. Okay, and then let's see what the White Light Oracle has to tell us as the ultimate white rose for you, the ultimate outcome energy. So this is a very beautiful energy. This is actually the energy of being seen for who you are, and the intimacy that can come. Some of you, if this was in a relationship, and what we're really talking about is maybe a relationship that was repressive, then in breaking free from that, you actually come to find the real love and the real connection. But I think for many of you, it is that you will be seen. You will be seen for who you are, creatively, as a leader, whatever that means to you. You will be seen, and there is that sense of true companionship and true connection. It's really lovely energy actually, but I think it's because you're a really lovely person. And I'm not saying that to just, flatter you. I actually do very strongly get that feeling. It's a beautiful sort of energy that we're talking about here. And as I say, a fierceness around protecting others and so forth. But I think it's like you finally get seen. As a white rose, that potential of the red rose becomes you being seen for who you are, the leader, the architect, the person who can bring better energy into whatever it is that we're talking about here. Okay. So just give me a moment. I dropped some cards on the floor. Right, so now we're going to just ask the Astro Chakra cards to finalise this, just for some astrological and chakra energy to help you go through this process. Pile one. Okay, so firstly, seeing Mercury twice, that very much says that there's a very strong communication. How you communicate, this is I think why I thought that it felt to me like swords energy. There's very much about your intellect, and with the architect then, how you communicate that's important. And it's like covering all the chakras from base to the crown chakra. There's a sense that across life you are creating better communication around basic needs about, for yourself and for others, through to the contemplation of that which is greater and so forth. Using your intuition and the third eye, I think you'd be probably very telepathic with people actually, with Neptune there, and surrendering to all that needs to be surrendered. This is you surrendering to the tower moment. This is you taking on the change. This is you putting it all on the line in whatever way that means to you. But that creates the connection across all your chakras, and creates it's almost like a closed loop of the Mercury energy, the messenger, the change and so forth, that you take something from the beginning to the end, you bring it together. So it's very much the alchemical process, processed through the mind, processed but with all that true, beautiful energy of the heart that Binah also gets. So you're very, very energetically high up in the Kabbalah, as I say. So And that's why you're meant to be a leader. So don't lose that side of yourself. Don't let people tell you it's ego. Don't let people tell you you're getting above yourself. You are finding yourself in this process. So Pile 1, I hope that that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share about it in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So as I said, these are the 3 rose cards that we're going to look at in terms of the alchemical journey and what is going on with it. Then I'm also using the Tarot of Magical Correspondences, which has Kabbalistic information as well, which I think is useful in looking at an alchemical process and the sort of spiritual underpinnings of it. These cards, in their classic sense, are very interesting because they suggest that there is something very new you were doing. I suspect that's not surprising. If you came to the innovator, unless there's something else that drew you to Pile 2, then I think your soul, your vibration obviously connects with the concept of being an innovator, and you definitely are. This card, however, does talk about being aware that it's important to move forward with what you do, to have other people not take control of it or take credit for it or something like that, because there is something very special that you are bringing to the world. It's something very artistic, and it's something very close to the heart. And it is possible with this that there is a relationship around you, a love relationship, you know, a soul twin, a twin flame, or even just a very, very strong love relationship that is somehow an impetus for this, maybe even a muse for it in some way. At its most tricky, it could show that there is part of this is about the competition in a relationship and finding the balance of that if there are 2 artists together, for instance. I don't feel like it's bad though. I feel as though that's not so likely to be the energy, but it may be with the 7 of Cups connected to the lover that you may be distracted by love and all of those sorts of things, and that actually takes you a little bit off course with what you're trying to do artistically, which would then allow somebody else to come in and take credit or take control in some way. Now, we'll look with the tarot about how to process that and what to burn out and so forth to try and stop that. The reality is I don't think for most of you coming here that it will occur. I think that with these cards, with the energies that we're looking at here, there is a perfect blueprint for how not to have that happen, even if you are a bit distracted sometimes by love, for instance, or you have so many options about how you would perfect the art of what you do and what you love there that it's hard to choose. There are clues around all of that with these cards. Now, firstly, just on their classic meaning, one of the reasons that you are a powerful innovator is with the 8 of Coins, you have done the work, you have developed the skills. You are ahead of class, so to speak, with that. There are particular skills, abilities, training, knowledge that you have that allows you to innovate. I'm getting that sense of you can only really break the rules once you understand them, and you understand them. You've done the work, you've got the theory, you've got the practice and so forth. That's why you can move, and it's interesting, alchemically we go from the red to a much closer to white colour there. I mean, it's probably a little bit more like dusky pink, but there is the movement from the innovation into the artistic expression and so forth, coming from this deep passion with the love of it. And that love of it is probably one of the reasons that you have put the time and energy into learning your craft. Here, the 7 of Cups does show all the different options and so forth, and I think a very wide audience for whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah, and this doesn't have to be a classic artist. You could be somebody who's creative in a more traditional job, but there is something very new and different and artistic and heartfelt about what you do, and you have lots of different options about how to do things because you have the skills. It's like you're multi-talented, I'd say. You may be sort of one of those sort of Renaissance people that you could paint or you could sing or you could write music or you could do a movie. And that's just in the creative space. If it's in a workplace, it might be that you could be a leader or you could be a designer or you could be a public face of an organisation. That you're multi-talented. That's partly what this is saying. And you've got the foundations. You've already got the foundations with the 3 of Coins and possibly people to collaborate with as well too. So there is, of course, a little bit of a warning there about making sure the collaborators are collaborating and not trying to take from you. But I think that you'll be aware of that. That's all you really need to be aware of it. With the Kabbalistic sort of energies, with Hod there, Hod is all about sincerity. So the other reason that it is hard, I think, for people to steal what you do is it comes from who you are very sincerely. It's part of who you are. If somebody else tried to take it, I think it would be very obvious that they were a pretender to the throne. And with the Seven of Cups, the seven in this deck relate to Nesach, which is the Sephiroth of victory. So it suggests that what you love most, whatever you love most, is the most likely thing to bring you victory. And here we have Binah. Threes are connected to Binah, which is the sort of conjunction of the wisdom of Hokmah with the compassion of Binah. It is the alchemical marriage, Hokmah and Binah. So there is a possibility that there is a significant relationship around all of this. As I say, some who've come here, it could be a twin flame type of situation. But if that's the case, I suspect that's part of the solution to this, that together you become more. It's only when it's pretenders who aren't part of what you're doing that you have an issue. But I think you would be very, very well aware of that and know you would bring wisdom and compassion into who you should collaborate with. So that's very positive. And as I say, there's a sense of a lot of the passion, the energy, the beginning of this process. It suggests to me with the more red rose feeling than white rose that you are just really starting to do this. You've got the skills, you've got these sort of ideas and so forth. It's really a choice about how to use your multi-talents and what to sort of build a foundation from. So let's have a look and see what Tarot has to tell us, pile 2. So firstly, we're going to start with the Light Angel Tarot, and this will be looking at a little bit more information about the sort of practical elements of all of this. What is really driving the transformation that you're going through? Then we're going to use the Dark Angel deck to look at what in the process of an Negredo, the burning out and change, what it is that you release, let go, transmute. So firstly, with the Light Angel, let's see a little bit more about what this is about. Okay, so I feel like the Magician reversed here, part of that is this warning that there may be someone around you who is not necessarily to be trusted. That's one reading of it, so I definitely think for some of you that's an important thing to know. It's picking up the warning of that this person recognises who you are, but they're not as talented as you. With the Magician reverse, they may have lots of talents like you, but they don't really use them to any particular good use. So you'll know it on that level. You'll be finding people who are more like you to collaborate with, not people who sort of talk a good game but don't actually ever produce anything. So I think it's just confirming for you around this change process. There is a competitor, but they're not in your league. What this is talking about, it's interesting we have the Eight of Coins again. So we definitely have this sense of somebody in you that this change is being instigated by having achieve some level of qualification, some level of craft, ability, and so forth. It may be a hint that where you've put most of your theoretic sort of study and your skill development is how to choose from your multi-talents. You've got what you need there in your kit bag with the Four of Coins as well too. You might be a little bit unsure about what to do with it though. I think that the Four of Pentacles is this sort of, how do I decide? How do I decide what to do and how to do it and what audience to have and all that sort of thing? And possibly this competition, whatever it is making things a little bit unbalanced. So you're naturally, you should be very balanced because of the sort of the Binah sort of energy around the coins as well. And you are very practical. There's something very practical about this. Whatever it is, it could be creative in a very artistic way, it doesn't, but it's got form. It's got a practical application in some way. I think this is saying you need a little bit more rest. It's like you've put a lot of effort into this and you overthink it in some ways, but it's weird. You sort of think it almost on a material level, not on a theoretic level, because you've got whatever theory you need, definitely. But it's you need a bit more rest, this is saying, to do that so that then you can actually turn these energies around and come out of this sort of sense of feeling out of balance. Meditation would help you, but just sleep. Like you just need sleep. I think you're a little bit tired. So let's look at, once you've got a little bit of rest, what that looks like. And I must say that's interesting because that is suggesting, don't waste too much time. But this is definitely saying taking some time out and some rest is is going to be helpful, because if you have an energy of somebody competing, you want to be on top form. So it's not like saying take 3 months off and do nothing. I'm not suggesting that, but it is saying get your life a little bit more back into balance. You've really been so dedicated, you love so much of whatever this is that you're doing, that it's sort of like getting you a little bit out of balance. Let's ask the Dark Angel Tarot about what it is in the Negredo, the period of time in alchemy where everything is burnt down and released, that you do release or you transmute going through this change. Okay, so you put everything on the line around love. So there's something around this. There's something that connects to love. I mean, and it could be love in the very abstract sense around love of art, creation and so forth. But I think for many here, there is a relationship. There's a relationship which either builds, grows and becomes the true collaborator, or you move away from if it wasn't what you thought it was. Either way, in this process of change, you are really testing out the heft of what you love and what you love most, because with the Ace of Cups, it's like the beginning of love. Knight of Cups is where it's more fully flowered and it's like an offer. It's like something you could consider. So for some of you, this may be around a relationship, as I say, and you're trying to work out, is this the right relationship? And you will know if it's one that connects, I think, with your artistic dreams and so forth. But you are prepared going through this change to just know what the truth is, particularly with the High Priestess there, to take the mystery away, to take all of that kind of almost, it's not fantasy away, but with the Seven of Cups that we had under there is that sort of sense of like emotional mystery. And I think that you're prepared to see it, because you don't want to be trapped intellectually in a belief that isn't working for you. But it's not an easy thing, I have to say. It does look to me, for many of you, like you have to really consider who you're connecting with and how you want to use your skills. And it is, you're literally putting everything on the line in the way of like even your hopes, even your dreams, even what you might have loved. Is this going to work? Now, I do believe it will. But I think that whether it is that you move on to a different relationship or you do something a bit differently artistically, I do believe it will. I do believe it's a process to take you through to what's more pure and true to you, and to give that victory that we talked about with Nesach in one of the early cards. But you are definitely putting everything on the line in this. You're really testing out your beliefs. You're testing out whether something is what you think it is, and being prepared to look at that. So let's go back to this particular tarot deck and ask, what is the Philosopher's Stone? The Philosopher's Stone in alchemy is sort of like a mysterious substance that is in everything. It is almost like the engine room of alchemical processes and change. So let's see what we can see, a little bit more detail, maybe to fix on whether the majority of people this is about love or whether it's about creative love. Okay, so it's interesting we've got the star twice. This is all about what you really truly cherish, what you truly hope for, what you truly dream of. This whole process is about that. It's about self-identity. It's about what you love. It's about how you love. It's about how you use your talents. And it's all about what is the true hope. So I think that's why the hope goes into the melting pot to be really looked at. It's a process of purification and understanding who you truly are, because you felt a little bit like a stranger in a strange land. You felt as though, even though I believe you have everything you need materially to bring whatever it is you want into being, you have a sense of lack around that, a sense of lack of love, a sense of lack of the resources, whatever it might be. Part of the Philosopher's Stone is regaining that sense of hope that this could be possible if you go through the process, if you have the courage to do it, and if you just go in and do it. It's like, don't delay. There is a sense, as I say, I'm not delaying. Do get the rest. This is a pretty significant thing, but temper that with also doing the work. It's both of those things together. This may make you move, travel, do all sorts of things. You may find yourself living in a different country. or at least a different location coming out of it, and certainly being much more out in the world with your creative vision, whatever that is, with the Knight of Wands. With Tippereth there, that is all about beauty and joy. So this is about finding joy, but I feel like either artistically, the environment that you're in, or in a relationship, this is why it's a kind of almost brinkmanship. It's like I'm throwing everything into the fire because I have to get to this, because I can't choose. I can't really see what's going on in this situation. And it may be because someone is gaslighting you or something like that. But it's like, it really is about finding joy. It's about reconnecting with joy and hope. And with Gebera there, this is about having the discipline to do it. This is about being prepared to do it, as I say, to be brave enough to do it. And I believe that you are. That's part of the engine room of this. With Hesod to Neshach, Neshach, as I say, is about victory. So again, it's a sign that you can have that hope, that you are heading in the right direction. And Yesod is the first Sephiroth after you've come from Malkuth, which is earth. So it is saying connecting back to your spiritual realms is part of what will do this. Connecting to this process and trusting this process will help you, because I think you are very materially focused. And I don't mean by that it's the love of money. I mean that you are very much in the material world. This is reminding you that your hope comes as much from your sort of spiritual connections as well. All right, let's have a look at some other change energy, the engine room of all of this, from some oracle cards that were also beneath the rose that you chose to come to this reading. So we have nature, the 9 worlds, and Gebo. So this does tell me that there are 2 really key parts of the engine of this for you to get to that hope, to that star energy. One is around finding the right partnership, the right connections, whether it is in love or whether it's in your career or your artistic expression. But there is definitely a sense of partnership that comes with Gebo. That's a rune that is about that. It is also about connecting with the higher self and higher union. So again, I'm going that some of you that have come here, this might be connecting to a twin flame or a soulmate or something like that. But it's somehow connected also to what you do, I think. It's connected to your talents. It's not just love for love's sake. And it's connected to what your true nature is. And I'm also getting get out into nature. That might be part of this rest. It might not always just be about sleep. It might be recommuning back with nature, because you are very much of this earth. You are very much grounded. You are very much meant to do something in this earth. And you understand with the 9 worlds that everything is connected. This is the connection across the tree of life. One of the reasons why I went, oh, when I saw it, because it does show you are connected with all of this. This is why you can have that bravery to take that step and to almost risk everything to find the true thing, and that's and to find your true nature, who you truly are. But you're very connected spiritually, and you're very connected to other people. If this is picking up a twin flame, you're highly telepathically connected to that person at this point in time, and helping to bring that into the material world and a kind of a partnership, if you haven't already done that. Okay. So now we want to have a look at what is kind of the outcome energy of this. So what I'm looking at is 3 different oracle decks to look at what I would call the white rose, the purified rose. So having moved from the red rose, gone through the change process, kind of what are the energies around the achievement of this for you? So we're starting firstly with some ancient Egypt energy. So Selket and Nephthys. So there is something profoundly healing in what's going on with this. Healing for you, I think, around your love nature and your creativity. But it connects to your soul, connects to everybody. And I think it will heal other people. There's something in your creative energy that heals others as well. And Nephthys, I find it hard to say her name, is about going through the pain, being prepared to go through the pain to get to the healing and so forth. You are magically protected while you do this. You're very, very connected. So you're magically protected. You can have faith. That's why the stars come up twice. Whatever this is a bit of a risk, as I say, or you feel that it's a bit of a risk, but you are far more prepared for it than you think, and far clearer about where people are not being true than you think. let's have a look. That's a couple of goddess energies that you already got, but let's see another goddess energy around the white rose culmination of this process for you. Wow, Lilith, independence, recognize your own potential. Yes, do recognize your own potential. I think you do get a little bit off track because, and as I say, it's almost that challenge of the multi-talented person, like where do I go, what do I do, or whatever. So recognize the potential and what you love and how that comes together. Lilith was a very early person, goddess, whatever you want to call, who was the first wife of Adam. So there is a sense always with Lilith of having felt rejected or not sort of seen for who they truly are. So there's something in this for you about really being seen in the world, either by someone that you love or by the world in general. And Lilith is an incredibly powerful energy, also an energy that draws people in. So if you're trying to do anything around creativity, you have an enormous power to draw people in and to fascinate them. Don't underestimate that. All right, so let's get a card from the White Light Oracle to sort of show the culmination, the white rose. So the seraph of 963 hertz, and that particular sort of vibration is about peace and joy and so forth. The seraph is one of the seraphim, so one of the highest orders of the angelic hierarchy, and it is about finding joy, praising life, the connection to spirit, the connection to heart, and so forth. This says that there is something very, very joyful that comes from this process for you. It's healing, you're magically protected, you become a light source for others that draws people in, but you get to enjoy this more. You get to really understand and revel in what you enjoy in the world. And I'm getting that it's everything in the world too. It's almost like you've been dialed down. It's almost like everything has been muted in your life because you haven't been able to choose where to put your energy. But once you actually do, it's like everything sort of goes up, like the colors become brighter, the taste becomes stronger, all of that for you once you really align to who you are and your potential. So I think that's a very lovely energy for what's coming when you've gone through this process. Let's bring it all together to close out the reading with the Astro Chakra card. So looking at both astrology and chakra energy to help you through this change process. Okay, so firstly, we've got 2 Uranus around individuality, and this is the core. This is about you becoming who you are. Then collaborating with the right people if you want to collaborate, loving the right people if you want to love, whatever it may be. But it really is the journey towards your true potential. And it's around how, firstly, you have a sense of your own power with the solar plexus chakra, and this is about with Uranus with that, so the nonconformist. You aren't meant to be just like everybody else. You are meant to be an innovator. You are meant to be artistic. You are meant to love what you do. So following that individuality is the right thing to do, and then communicating it in some way with the 5th chakra, you will be seen as original. So you've got all the theory, all the practice, all the skill or whatever, but you are going to do something and be seen as original. And that then helps you at a very emotional level with the moon in the root chakra. There is a sense where you have to shift away, I think, from the emotional attachment you have just to security and just to survival. And that's probably the 4 of coins that was there also with the 8 of coins. It's sort of like moving outside of that sort of sense of how do I stay safe and owning who you are. And understanding the emotional energy for that is more a muse for you. It's more to fire the creativity. Look into that, use that in some way, because it's sort of universal. I think what you feel in that sense, a lot of people feel and will respond to. So this could be about connecting with, communicating with, and being your true self within a major relationship. But I think for many of you, it is that or really something creative, something around that could ultimately be about partnership, but is truly also about you being who you are. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile 2, and I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share about it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So this is the 3 rose cards, as I said, the one that drew you to the reading, and then the others to show the alchemical change process that we're looking at the moment, the transformation we're looking at the moment in your life. And I don't think it'll come as a surprise to you. If you consciously chose this deck because of the archetype of the storyteller, then this will immediately resonate for you. If you came for other reasons, then I think this is the nature of the change that is being shown. But you are really very much a person of the truth. You are a person who will probably uncover the truth, tell the truth, highlight the truth, and I think pioneer and start new ways of being that are better. This has a very strong feeling of someone like a journalist who looks at and tells truth to power, a political activist, a community organizer, a person within an organization that looks to the intricacies of the organization and what it's doing sort of almost in a regulatory or a philosophical or a ethical balance. Highly ethical, highly intelligent, able to get to the facts, able to advocate for something that is kinder and something that is more balanced in some way. There's a lot about dealing with power here, but it's dealing with it through the stories that you can tell, the facts that you can show, the sort of dissonance between what is being said in a PR campaign, for instance, and what's actually going on, and also bringing in a new sort of way of doing things. I think it's interesting. It's like you're someone who will go through a change of or build upon something you've probably already been doing, which is about, as I say, truth-telling, that is about researching, that is about bringing things to the light, and then eventually that will create something where you're a leader, and that's part of the journey that you're going on. So in terms of the classic archetypes from here, the storyteller is somebody who is looking for what is the truth in something. It can also be the person who can put together the story, tell the story, show the narrative, influence, and so forth. The advocate is someone who will advocate for better outcomes and so forth. And the pioneer is the person who will take something forward and look at a new way of doing things and so forth. In terms of the alchemy of this, it shows me, because we have very much red rose types of energies here, there's a little bit of pink leading a little bit more to the white rose there, that this is very much around the material world and around the powers of the world. There is a connection in what you want to bring in that connects to the spiritual more, but there is a lot around power, passion, energy, and so forth that you're dealing with this. And I think you're really only at the beginning of a much longer journey. This change process may be to take you through some form, I think, of minor conflict. It's not the big ticket one, but it's where you start to get the understanding of your ability, your capacity, whether it's to negotiate or, as I say, tell a story or be a journalist and really bring something to the surface. And with the 5 of Wands, there's usually some conflict, but fairly mild conflict. I think it's you're getting your training wheels on and you're seeing who you really can be. And part of it is about you learning more and more and more how you can come out from just being the researcher into being someone who can advocate. With the 4 of Swords, there's that sense that you've been a little bit held back. You've watched the world, you've got a very keen intelligence about what's going on in the world, but you haven't necessarily yet stepped into this advocacy. But this change process is about doing that. And then you get to the leadership. I think it goes quite rapidly, actually. I think once you've actually started to come forward and speak your truth and show how clever you are, then you go to a leadership type role with the King of Wands, and you find you actually can combine that with a kind of charisma. It really interests me, actually, the storyteller with the King of Wands, because to me this feels like when you tell your story, there's a lot of flair to it. There is a lot of charisma. You could be someone who does it through a novel or through a screenplay or something like that, or you could be a motivational speaker. But if you are, it's about uncovering things and getting people to see the truth, not just sort of feel-good sort of stuff. And it's about something new. It's about a different approach, a different way of doing things. Many of you, this could be political in one form or another, around bringing in something that you feel is better and being a real leader in advocating that new approach and so forth. Very, very sort of powerful. In terms of these particular cards, I'm using this is the Tarot of Magical Correspondences, and it has connections to the Kabbalah. So it shows you other sort of information that is important to this. And I thought that really connects with the alchemical process, the spiritual aspect of the alchemical process. So with your storytelling, finding the truth, telling the truth, you have Gevurah. So that gives you a sense of discipline. You're not going to overtell a story. You're not going to take a story and turn it into PR and use it to manipulate people. There is a sense of discipline and control to what you do. And it's also one of the reasons why you can win out against other people who are maybe just, picking up the sort of daily speaking points or whatever from a political party and just saying them. You actually are taking the discipline of looking to the truth and uncovering the truth. With the Four of Swords, that connects to Hesed, which is all about kindness. And this is you're advocating for a kinder way of doing things, a better way of doing things, a more egalitarian way of doing things. And that's part of your guiding principle. That's part of how you do the discipline. You would not just like to tell a story just for the flair. You want it to actually achieve something that is better for people. And then when we get to Kings in this suit, it connects to Chokmah, which is wisdom, divine wisdom. So it is bringing a wisdom to it, and a very strong intellectual wisdom. You wouldn't take any prisoners intellectually, actually. You absolutely know who you are on an intellectual level, and you are highly, highly, highly ethical. And that is part of your real power, and that is how this process is going to take you to something where I think you will be a leader. Okay, so let's use the tarot to get a little bit more information about what's going on in the change process first, and then we're going to look with the second of the tarot decks into what you will be burning out or burning down or releasing to really achieve this transformation. Okay, this is definitely the group. I often find I have a group that this fits who are in some sort of powerful environment or will be. And it is really about bringing out what isn't true. The strongest feeling I get around this is like a journalist or some sort of political operative or something who actually is bringing the truth to light with something that is not right, something that is very traditional, something that is very established, but is no longer, with the star reversed, bringing about what it's meant to be bringing about, what it's claiming to be bringing about. And you are going to bring this out somehow. You definitely are. And you're going to rock the foundations of the material world and of what is established, because you know it's no longer serving an emotional purpose. So whatever level this is, I mean, it could be, it's as simple as, within an organisation, and you can sort of see that there are problems and changes and there's a change in the garden. Somehow something that you're going to say, see or uncover is going to help start to shift that. But for many of you, I think this is a calling to be in something political or a community environment or something like that. It's a calling to wage war a bit on the powers of the world, but to do it through the way that you see facts, your storytelling, how articulate you are, those sorts of energies. It's holding that mirror up of truth, because that which is not real cannot withstand that. That which is not real will have to scurry away like sort of cockroaches scurry away when the light is turned on and so forth. It's that sort of feeling. This is you stepping into that role, very much so. So let's see what you need to burn out, change, transmute, release to be really able to step into this. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, it could be creative. You could do this creatively too. Like showing what it is to be authentic creatively, break down some of the conventions within a creative industry, for instance. It doesn't have to be political, but I think a lot of you, there will be a political element to this. All right. Okay, so the first thing that in a sense you're almost offering up for this, and in the Nigredo process, which is what this is meant to show, the burning out of the constituent elements, they just transmute. You don't lose these things, but you almost have to be prepared to put them on the altar and see what happens. Part of it is your psychic sense. You do have a very strong psychic sense, but it's like you are connecting more to your mind and to understanding the pain of the mind here with the Three of Swords. So you are almost stepping away from what you intuitively feel to look at what you have the facts on, because you feel like there's something that's not what it appears to be that you need to kind of burn out and bring to the surface and so forth. You are also putting on the line what your ultimate reputation is. Now, I think you're going to come out fine. I think you will, because of that. That's the sort of promise of the original sort of card there around the pioneer. But you are risking that. You risk your own reputation, your own position, all of that sort of thing to take this battle on, because you can see where that sort of energy is not being used appropriately with the Knight of Wands reversed. You can see the pain that this is causing. So you're offering all of that up in a way to be transmuted, to be transformed. And you actually step away from the spiritual to look at the more pragmatic and so forth, because that's where it is, and it could be creatively that you step forward and you move away from the spiritual. But as I say, you never lose the spiritual. That's not really what's going on. And if you have that connection to Alchemy, you can't really lose that. But it's not the focus that you bring to this. This is about facts. This is about the rules and structures around things and what isn't working and so forth. And you put a lot on the line for this, by the looks of things, in whatever level it is that you're doing it. So let's see a little bit more about, before we do that, we're going to do some more cards from the Tarot of Magical Correspondences to look at what I would call the Philosopher's Stone, which is a mysterious energy, substance thing in the alchemical process, which is kind of in everything. It's a bit like a life force, but it's a way of sort of seeing what's really going on, the first sort of step of an engine room of this change. Okay, this would definitely suggest that most of you, if you've come to the right reading and you're relating to this, and you've already been through quite a bit, even though your real journey is just beginning, you've been through quite a bit with the Nine of Wands there. So part of the engine room here is just keeping on, and knowing that you're on the right path, and just sticking to your truth and so forth. There is a reckoning coming with Judgment, and this is karmic for you. I don't think it's a reckoning for you, but I think that you are almost an agent of reckoning. You're an agent of karma in a way in what you're doing here. So it's about that. It's about bringing things into more balance and finding the right people and the right connections and the similar vision. So I don't think you'll ultimately be alone in doing this, though you'll probably start off feeling like you are, but I think part of the engine room of this is to bring you people that are right for you, people that connect to who you're going to be as a leader, because this card connects to Chokhmah again, people who have the same ethical base as you, because you're very, very ethical. Hesod here, or Yesod, is the connection between Malkuth, which is earth, and the higher realm. So it is saying you will continue with this. It's saying don't worry about the fact that you're moving away from maybe the spiritual and looking at the more practical. You will connect to that. There's not a problem with that. And similarly, we've got the earth energy of Malkuth here with Judgment going to Hod. And Hod is all about sincerity and truth. So the truth that you bring to the world, in whatever form this is your role in a kind of a bigger picture karmic reckoning change process. So this is very, as I say, I really feel like this is like political or social or cultural in a very, very true way. But how you express it, as I say, it could be creative, it could be political, it could be organizational. But don't give up. Don't give up, because you are meant to be part of what brings this in. You're meant to be a leader going forward. Okay, so let's have a look at the other cards that were under the rose that brought you to this reading, to see some more about the engine room of change that you're operating with. Okay, so we have two runes here, and we also from Norse mythology, and we also have movement. So this is, again, the sense of movement, the sense of change. You are a change agent. It's your truth that brings it. And it's interesting we have serpents on this, because the serpents is about wisdom. It's kind of Gnostic. It's bringing the truth to a situation. It's bringing enlightenment to a situation in some way. So it's got a very sort of strong connection to the occult and the spiritual that way, certainly. Hagalaz is about disruption, change. It's elemental power, the unexpected challenge and all that sort of thing. This is, you are not choosing an easy path. But having said that, you have the strength to do it because truth is on your side. Perthro is very deep. This is connecting, I think, to the Gnostic sort of sense here and so forth, because it's about initiation. It's about the deeper transformational energy. It's about the mysteries. There's something hidden. I actually think that's why the moon showed up there. That's why I kind of paused for a second, because I was connecting it in my head with the moon. I feel as though you won't see when you first go into this how spiritual what you're doing is and how connected it is to the mysteries. You will find it out eventually. You will have your own enlightenment coming through it. But first you have to enlighten others about the facts. First you have to live in the world of pentacles and swords, in the material and the intellectual. But eventually it comes to something much, much deeper because of your courage to go through the change and the disruption. Okay, so let's see what the white rose means. And what I mean by the white rose is the purified form, the outcome of this process. So I have 3 different oracle decks I want to draw from to get a bit of a picture of that. Firstly, one that draws from ancient Egyptian mythology. Okay, so here we have the earth spirit. And I don't know how to pronounce this properly, but it looks like Dormatef. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But that shows this sort of sense. This is very grounded in the earth. You are here for a reason. You're here in the earth for a reason at this point in time, on the earth for the reason, for a real reason. And we have the cobra, the divine awakening. So again, this sort of serpent energy. You will find this awakens something else in you, but I think it's the process. It's the courage to go in with the truth. It's to take the change, and then you will learn something else about yourself, which is probably why you end up then with the Chokmah connection, the King of Wands, the wisdom. There is a direct connection to wisdom that will come to you through this, but you go through the process of uncovering truth for others first, and then it actually brings truth to you. Okay, let's see what goddess energy is around you with the white rose. Okay, so this is Maeve, power. So yeah, there's a lot of power in you, a lot of power in you. But I don't think you even have the first clue about that yet. I mean, I think you've got some sense of it, but the power of your storytelling, getting to the King of Wands, as I say, is significant. It will bring you power, but I feel really comfortable because you are about truth and you're about ethics. It's like it's a different form of power, a better form of power. Okay, so let's see what the White Light Oracle says about your white rose, pile 3. Okay, you've got the Pearl of Sharo, very healing, very, very precious outcome. There's a sense of something precious that comes through this. And I think it works on 2 levels. I think what you bring is precious for others, absolutely. But I also think it's precious for you. And it's interesting, to me, the Pearl always talks about the grit that is necessary. This is this Hagalaz energy. This is the standing up to power energy. The Pearl is created in the oyster by the irritation from some grit, basically. It's out of the change that something very precious comes. So, and there's a lot of, as I say, of wisdom and power that comes with it. But I'm getting that you're going through this process. Why it's important is that the process that takes you to your power is the process that understands and highlights where power is misused. That way you will not do it yourself because you will have seen what not to be. Okay, so to bring it all together, I'm just going to use 3 Astro Chakra cards for astrology and chakra energy for you for this change process. Okay, and here we have why it is that you will be a much better leader and a much better person to have power than a lot of the people in the world that have power at the moment. Because you are connecting 3 very benefic, caring sort of planets, the Moon, Jupiter and Neptune, with your sense of self. So your sense of self is about how you nurture and help others. With the 3rd chakra, with your heart chakra, it's about generosity. You have a generosity of spirit. And how you communicate with Neptune, inspirational to others, brilliant storyteller, exploring dreams, showing people what could be. It sort of makes me think of that quote about, I think it was, I can't remember whether it was John F. Kennedy or his brother Robert who said it, but it was something along the lines of, some people, look at the world and ask why something is the way it is. I look at the world and ask why it couldn't be something else. That's it couldn't be something else. It's not the exact word that at all. I'm butchering it, I'm sorry. But it's that concept of looking at what something could be and asking why not, rather than just sort of complaining. You have the energy to inspire people. So apologies to the original person who had that wonderful quote that I butchered it so badly, but hopefully you'll get the sense of what I'm trying to say there. So pole 3, there's something very important you're meant to bring into the world. You're just starting on that journey, I think, starting to know who you are. But we do need people like you in positions of power or in positions of talking about power and so forth, in whatever form it is. So I hope this resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share about it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pole 4, to your reading. So these 3 cards have the rose that brought you here and 2 other roses to show the nature of the alchemical journey or transformational journey you're going through. And then I'm also using the Tarot of Magical Correspondences to give a bit more information, particularly around the Kabbalistic energy and the spiritual energy and so forth around your transformational process. This group is highly spiritually attuned. Whatever your transformation is primarily about a spiritual transformation, but it is a spiritual transformation in service of an ideal. So it will have a material outcome or a material benefit to others, I believe, but it is about your mystical journey. You are a mystic. You are someone who is primarily focused on the connection with the divine. And so any change process you go through and anything that you deal with in the material world is very much aligned to that. And you are certainly very, very advanced with this. So it will be interesting to see with the tarot cards what the kind of more granular material elements are to this, but it is part of a long-term mystical journey. The first thing I actually thought when I put these 3 cards out, the Knight, the Warrior and the Mystic, I thought of the Knights Templar. So some of you may well have had lives in that particular order or something like that. So that sort of sense of being the warrior, being prepared to be the knight, being prepared in this deck, classically this is about being prepared to fight for your ideals and so forth, to be the knight, to be the one who is about honor. The warrior is being prepared to go into a battle, that there may be a battle coming, but being prepared to do that and being ready for it. And then the mystic is literally the mystic who will potentially renounce the material things of life for the spiritual and so forth. And so the Knights Templar is a good template for that, of a group of people who fought in their time for Christendom and for the mysteries, really. There's a lot that's mysterious and occult about the Knights Templar, but very much that sense of spiritual warriors. So you are the group of spiritual warriors, definitely. And whatever this is about, there's something around honor and fighting for something that connects you more to the divine, and that is also inspired by the divine. There's almost a feedback element going on here, I would have to say. And the reason I'm saying that is, when we have a look at the tarot cards, the 4 of Coins classically will tell us that there is something in the material world you are looking to protect. This could be family, it could be a workplace, it could be friends, but you're looking to protect and contain and reserve some form of material energy, but it's from an honourable place. With the Magician, you are using all your skills in the battle, and you have considerable skills. And with the Ace of Cups, it all comes from your heart. There is something that you love. There is something potentially new that you want to bring into being without, in any sense, compromising the old. So if this was something that was creative, it might be that you have a new vision that you want to bring into being, but you want to respect and honour the pathway that led you to there, the work that you've done before, the skills that you've brought into being, and so forth. If it is in some sort of like workplace, it could be that you have a new heart-centered approach to leadership or something like that, but you will not disturb that which is honourable and good in the process of doing it, and you have the wisdom to do that. In the sense of the Kabbalistic connections, Your sense of honor is connected to Hesed, so to kindness, to that sort of sense of honoring yourself and others, and kindness. So there's something inherently very kind about you, which would make sense with someone who is so mystically inclined. With the Magician, you have the connection from Binah to Keter. So Binah is the mixing of wisdom and compassion, and Keter, of course, is the divine. So your sense of being a warrior, your sense of being a knight, is where you see that there is unkindness, where you see that there is a lack of compassion, where you see that things in the material world in particular are not designed to care and be fair and empathize with others. That's when you go into battle, and you are divinely inspired in doing that. Because again, over here with the Ace of Cups, all the aces in this deck connect to Keter. So your heart comes from the divine. You are connected to the divine. Most of you probably have very significant dreams, meditations, all of that sort of thing. But in the end, it is for you about compassion and kindness. That is your spiritual journey. And whatever you're going through at this point, whatever you're transmuting and changing and transforming, it is in service of that, because there is a very strong sense of service around all of this. Okay, so let's see, firstly with the Light Angel Tarot, what are some more specifics about what this looks like at the moment, what the change process actually is. Because for you, even it's interesting that we have the red rose to the white rose, and then we're going pink almost here. It's like it goes on and on and on. You are on a spiral that goes up and up and up and up. So all we're looking at really here is whatever the current change process is that more and more refines your spiritual connection. So let's have a look at what the details are around it. Okay, so for some of you, what's triggering this particular round might have to do with a relationship. When we have both the Knight of Cups reversed and the Lovers here, there could be choices around emotional offers. What is the right connection? So for some of you, you may be considering a love relationship or in a love relationship, and you're trying to work out whether or not it does align with your more mystical love and your spiritual quest and so forth. So that's a possibility. If it's the case, it's probably a relatively new relationship with the Ace of Pentacles, but one that you maybe are not sure about. It may be that you went into it not to feel alone and to resolve other emotional scenarios that you had, but you do need to kind of think about whether it's the right choice or not. Is it going to connect? It's not saying that it necessarily isn't, but it is saying that part of your process of, in a sense, fighting for what you love and what is connected to you is would this relationship fit this or not? If it's not a love relationship, then it is you recalibrating your own mystical love and so forth. You may have actually felt that you've been taken more into the material, and that's disconnected you from your heart. So some of this transformational process might be reacquainting yourself with your spiritual path, where you felt that you've been very much looking into the material. And I'm getting for some of you that may be because you've gone through a process with the Magician of building your skills and maybe fighting for your place to be seen in the world in some way, in your career, in your studies, whatever it might be. I think Spirit is saying that's fine. It just becomes the next impetus for the next spiritual alignment for you, and for you to understand how that fits in, because it's almost as though you had to do that and see that you could fight for things and see that you could stand in your own truth and your own strength and your own skills, that allows you to then start to connect to what you really would love to do. So some of you may have been through a bit of a career or study crisis actually that is triggering this. Some of you, it may have been a relationship. And for some of you, it may have been just feeling that you were a little bit out of step with what was materially around you and what other people seem to value. You know, are people sharing your values? That kind of energy. So let's have a look at what, with the Dark Angel Tarot, what needs to be burnt out, released, transformed in what you would call the Negredo part of the alchemical process, which is when all the various elements are burnt out, burnt down to their pure essence so they can be transformed. Okay. So there's some interesting energies here. Firstly, I think that for some of you, there's something from your childhood that's related to this. It could even be that your spiritual path is very different to that which you grew up in some way. So some of this is about becoming more true to that and honouring who you truly are spiritually. But for others, there may have been something in the way that you were brought up, or that your sense of self when you were young in some way that was distorted. I think that, maybe you were misunderstood on a spiritual level. Maybe you were in a family that had narcissists and so forth, and you were kind of the truth teller. There's those sort of energies around it. You're needing to burn that out. You're needing to burn out the things from your past. So feeling very strongly with the Sun that it's about things where you were too innocent of the fact that other people were not like you. Other people were not as connected to their heart, to the divine, and they were maybe authority figures around you. Parents, school, workplace, whatever it might be. So some of the innocence needs to be burnt out to free the energy of who you truly are. You're carrying a bit too much pain, because this degree of mystical connection is a bit like being empathy with an open wound almost. A lot comes into you and you take on a lot of other people's causes and so forth. Some of that needs to be burnt out so that you can make a choice about where you want to put this sort of love energy and so forth, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in your spiritual practice or whatever. But you need to burn out the pain from the past and the kind of the limitations on the innocence and the truth and the freedom. I don't think you were very free to be who you were when you were young. And you may still be carrying some of that residual energy about trying to sort of live up to the rules of others and so forth. That's what needs to burn out, because you're on a very pure path, but it's not a path that everybody will understand, at least not initially. Okay, so we want to go back and use this particular deck again for what I would call the Philosopher's Stone in the alchemical transformation. And the Philosopher's Stone is a mysterious substance that is theoretically in everything. It's a bit like a life force. So to me, it's sort of the engine room of the change. And we're then going to look at a little bit more information with oracle cards around what is the engine of this change for you. Okay, so we've got two queens. That always says to me, two queens, two kings, that kind of energy is coming into your own sovereignty. So this is about you really becoming you on a very spiritual level. And it's on both materially and also emotionally. It's a connection of both of those things, earth and water. You may have earth or water quite strongly in your chart, or it could be that there are aspects to those sorts of signs at the moment with various planets and transits in your chart that are triggering some of this. But it really is about you coming into your sovereignty and going against the grain, doing something that maybe surprises people. This is why you've got to kind of burn out that which was fitting in before and look at what is true to you. In terms of the Kabbalistic thing, this has to do firstly with your love and compassion sort of energy with Binah. So Binah is important to you. It is the connection of love and compassion and wisdom. It's connecting all those three things together. And that's why the heart is so important here for you. It's your connection to Keter. So there is definitely that sort of sense around it with two queens. But you also have Tiphereth, and Tiphereth is the space of love and joy, and often called Christ consciousness as well. So there is that sense of connection that is joyful and loving and wonderful. I do feel most of the people who come here, you have been in spiritual situations, or you've been misunderstood, or you've been sort of straitjacketed into something that did not bring you the love and the joy. So this is about reconnecting with the love, the spiritual love, the divine love that is really who you are and who you've been in many lifetimes, I think. Okay, let's have a look at the Oracle deck cards that were around the engine room of this change. Oh, wow. So with the creator energy there, that's connecting to Keter. It's very much tripling down, I would say, actually, on the connection of the spiritual for this. And you are meant to create who you are. And it's interesting that you have the Norns here, because the Norns are a bit like, in Norse mythology, they're a bit like the Fates, but the thing that's different is that they don't say that fate is unalterable. They're not weaving some sort of tapestry for your life that you cannot veer from. They are actually allowing for that. There is a certain amount of fate, destiny, and so forth that is is innately born into you. It could be shown by your astrology chart. It could be shown by your sort of character and so forth. But there is also the capacity of choice around this. And this is the choice to become more of who you are. Then you also have a rune, Thurazaz, which is all about going outside of your comfort zone, about reclaiming your power, about, yes, burning out that which is not true to you anymore and being able to move forward. It's the rune of the threshold. It's a gateway. I think that many of you, meditation, all of that sort of thing will really show you a lot. There is a sense where I think you can move interdimensionally, and this is part of what will bring you closer and closer to your heart. All right, so now we want to have a look at, if you've gone through the process, we get to a thing called the white rose, which is effectively the sort of purified form of the rose, having gone through the alchemical process. So I've just chosen 3 different oracle decks to show elements of that, to show you a bit about what the destination is, what the outcome is. So firstly, a deck that uses ancient Egyptian mythology. That's interesting. That came up for another one, Earth Spirit. And Bust. Okay. So what I think this is saying is that once you go through this cycle and you reach the Ace of Cups and you know what your kind of spiritual connection is, you actually can ground it in the world quite a bit with the Earth Spirit, and you can have fun, you can enjoy life a bit more. So the reward is partly about bringing into the material what you feel spiritually. So Bust is about joy, pleasure, play, that kind of energy, a kind of a lighter energy and so forth, because you go through a lot of battles spiritually, and you have, I think, in past lives, but you are meant in this life to really come into being on this earth with who you are, and to burn out, as I say, the things that aren't who you are. So let's see what other goddess, we've got one goddess here, but let's see what other goddess energy is around you with the white rose. Oh, lovely. Kuan Yin, compassion. So this is Binah. You are meant to become a queen. You are meant to become sovereign, but a very compassionate and wise sovereign. And there's a lot of luck associated with Kuan Yin as well too. I think you bring luck in and manifestation in and so forth. But the compassion is what permeates it, because it comes from your sense of honour. It comes from your preparedness as the warrior to fight for people who are maybe being misused or kept down or whatever it is. There's that spirit in you, which is the thing that comes from your incredible compassion. So let's see with the White Light Oracle what other attributes of the white rose you will manifest. That's interesting. That came up with another one as well too. So I think that some of you might have gone to more than one reading, and that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, there's some very similar sort of alchemical journeys going on with the people who in the collective who are coming to these readings, because the Pearl of Shadow is about something very precious, about reaching that which is precious and bringing it into being. And I said in the other one that there is a process that is difficult that brings about a pearl, because when we think about it in an oyster, the grit is what creates the pearl in the oyster. So there has to be that change process. I think for the other reading, it felt like it was a political battle. For you, I think it is the initial discomfort of casting off that which is not true to you anymore, even if it means maybe disconnecting from certain people or belief structures and so forth. But what you get from it is something that is worth so much more, something that is so much more precious. Okay, so to close out pile 4, I just want to pull 3 Astro Chakra cards to bring some astrology and chakra energy in to bring it all together for you. Okay, so first I just want to say, just even putting those down, something very strongly came through. I do feel that many of you have been spiritual warriors in many lives, and as I say, things like the Knights Templar and so forth. I think you have fought very literally for causes, spiritual causes. I think this time around, you bring that sense of honour and that sense of being able to stand up for the truth and so forth, but you are bringing to something that is more nurturing, more caring, more that queen energy, more that Binah energy. It's like you can almost, I feel like I need to say, you can put down your sword and you can open your arms, because there's a different way, and that's why we've got the Ace of Cups. And it's shown here because we have in the heart chakra, we have Jupiter, we have wisdom, and it's your generosity of spirit. In the solar plexus chakra, we have the moon, bringing emotions, making you nurturing. Part of your power is going to be about how you can nurture others. You don't necessarily, as I say, always have to hold the sword. Sometimes you just need to open your arms. And then we have in the throat chakra, Neptune, inspiration, exploring dreams, the stories that you can tell, the way that you can inspire others. It's a different way of doing it. I feel like, I literally do, right from the beginning of this Knights Templar, I feel like I see you like this weary warrior who can lay down the sword, can reconnect to the compassion and the heart and the divine mission, and then it is a nurturing energy that you bring. I think that's what this is talking about. And where you are around spiritual people, spiritual processes or whatever that are not nurturing, that are not caring, that are not of the heart, you burn that out, you change. It's not a battle you have to have this time. It's a realization and a reclamation of who you are and what you have to offer. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 4. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.